Welcome to our first official fasting video. I'd like to talk about this theme, which is called "For Such a Time as This." In Esther 4:14 through 16, it says this: "If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows, perhaps, if you were made queen for such time as this?" Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: "Go and gather together all the Jews of Susa, and listen to this, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same." That's Esther 4:14 through 16. So it's that time of year again, what I like to call the most wonderful time of the year. I realize that the phrase has already been taken by those speaking of the Christmas season, a time of year that has just recently passed. But for me, I like to use this phrase to describe my favorite personal time, or 21 days of prayer and fasting. This year's theme is a well-known passage from the book of Esther, "For such a time as this." So I want to encourage you to read through the book of Esther. It is an absolute gem of a story located in the Old Testament, right before the book of Job. First, an incredibly brief summary of the book of Esther. Esther is a Jewish maiden who became queen of Persia, who used her influence with the king to rescue her people from genocide. Esther's cousin Mordecai, who also served as her guardian, had gotten news that a plot had arisen to eliminate all the Jewish people. Mordecai then sent a message to Queen Esther to go to the king and, quote, "beg for mercy and plead for her people," end quote. This was risky because the king was in his inner chambers, and the law stated that if someone were to interrupt the king in his chambers without being invited, they could suffer death unless the king holds out his golden scepter. Esther was full of fear, knowing that this approach could result in her death, and this is where we pick up the story with the passage above. Mordecai used this phrase to persuade her: "Who knows, perhaps, if you were made queen for such a time as this." This phrase is what grabbed hold of Esther's heart and caused her to rise above the worry of her own self-preservation and move into a sense of purpose. Places of influence can be used for your own sense of fulfillment, or you can see a higher call. Esther sent her reply: "Go, gather the Jews of Susa, and fast for me. My maids and I will do the same." As she prepared for the biggest moment of her life, she called the people to a fast. At Freedom Church, we will prepare you for your big moments. We're calling all of the church to fast and pray for 21 days, January 5th through 25th, this being the first day. We believe all of us, every person on this planet, has been placed here on purpose by God to do something significant. I want to give you a couple of reasons why you should consider joining us in the 21 days of prayer and fasting. Number one, fasting with prayer gives value to your faith. Fasting is, and I always say this, giving up something you love, food, we all love food, for someone you love more, Jesus. By voluntarily withholding food, you place value on your relationship with God. Number two, fasting with prayer increases your dependence on God. By doing something that is beyond your own strength, you tap into His strength. And when you increase your dependence upon God, tapping into His strength, you will see His presence and His power activated in you. Number three, and the last one, fasting turns down the volume of the secular and turns up the volume of God and His Word. Don't be surprised if your prayer quality soars and you start hearing the voice of God clearer. The reason is because you've turned down the noise of the world so that you can hear God more clearly. Fasting ideas can be endless. That is, people often ask, what should I fast? How should I fast? One of the fasts is a Daniel fast. You can eat only fruits and vegetables, or you can fast breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Some people fast coffee, alcohol, carbs, sweets, chocolate, potato chips, processed food, dairy, candy, and my favorite, raw onions. Just kidding. You can also fast TV, sports, social media, Amazon shopping, or complaining. Whatever you choose, make sure it's sufficiently hard, but not too hard. As a general rule, I don't recommend total fasts of food unless God directs, as most of us have to get out there. Remember, use the time you would be eating to pray and seek God. 2025, listen, it can be your best year. if it is your best year spiritually. Fasting and prayer can help that be so. So my prayer is when you embark on this 21 days of prayer and fasting, that you'll experience God at a higher level. We'll talk to you again soon.